Good evening, everyone. If you saw differences, India's differences in the previous session, just concluded, welcome to this session on resilience, which I promise you will not only demonstrate India's unity, but also touch your hearts and inspire you. The COVID pandemic has impacted all of us. Most of us were afflicted by it. I, in fact, had an attack I thought I got away with it in the first wave and the second wave, but it came to me on the third wave and it was Omicron at that time, very mild. I was out of it in 2 or 3 days and back to work. But I know that there were thousands who suffered, families who lost their loved ones, families who their loved ones were afflicted seriously and are still recovering from the effects of COVID. And if you look at official statistics, close to 44 million people in India were afflicted with COVID during this period. Of those, 530,000 people died. After a shaky start, which we all witnessed in the early days, and all this brings memories, not very good memories back, India's medical response began to kick in, and it was truly phenomenal and laudable. Not only did we develop vaccines, we manufactured them for India and for the world, and we carried out one of the world's biggest vaccine drives. Over 700 million people got their double vaccinations, an incredible feat by itself. But as you know, apart from the devastation that it had on our personal lives, COVID also seriously impacted our livelihoods. Overall, the Indian economy was so devastated that it went into degrowth. An economy that was growing in terms of GDP went into minus. An estimated 140 million people in India lost their jobs, and countless others. There's no figure to the number of people who experienced salary cuts during that period. One study indicated that more than 45% of Indian households had experienced a drop in income levels. While almost all the sectors in the country were impacted, the ones that were probably suffered the most and impacted the most was what was called the personal touch industry. And among the sectors of that, I mean, if you looked at some of the personal touch industry that was there, it was tourism, hospitality, entertainment, and aviation. And I'm just going in whatever order that they came in. Now, the good news is that most of these sectors are on the path to recovery, and in the process, they have restored millions of jobs and has positively impacted millions of other families, including all of us, and brought much of the joy and happiness back, and hopefully that period is over. Of course, COVID is again raising its head, but not in the kind, we hope it's not in the kind that happened the first two or three waves that is there. And so there are remarkable stories to be told of this great turnaround from various managements, institutions, through great odds. They demonstrated outstanding management skills, leadership and compassion that lifted our companies out of the morass through some of the most difficult times. COVID was truly a black swan event, and they have all inspiring stories to tell and management lessons that we can learn from. Ladies and gentlemen, we all lauded the doctors, healthcare workers, scientists, and government officials who helped us contain the impact of COVID, and for very good reason. Today, we will laud those who also made a huge impact on our livelihoods. They too are our COVID heroes. And I have great privilege in introducing 3 of them today. As I said, from diverse sectors. From the aviation sector, we have Ajay Singh, CEO of SpiceJet, among the top 5 airlines in the country. From the hospitality sector, there is Puneet Chatwal, Managing Director and CEO of the India Hotels Company, which owns the Taj Group of companies, including the one that we are sitting here. And from the entertainment sector, Ajay Bijli, from PVR Inox Limited, who owns it, the largest cinema, who owns the largest number of cinemas in the country. And I'm sure all of you all have been in one of them during our lifetime here. So let's give them a warm round of applause before we begin. Ajay, Ajay Singh. Ajay, uh, you were flying something like 75 aircraft before COVID struck you. And domestically, at that time, you were the third largest, turnover of something like 12,000 crores, 14 million passengers, employees that were something like 12,000 people. When COVID struck you, what was the impact it had? And then how did you begin to turn it around? I mean, this must have been devastating at that particular point. Can you narrate in a personal manner what it, go through that period?
Well, aviation was one of those spaces which just shut down, completely shut down. We were just told one fine day in March that it's not like we had to reduce flights or uh, take some precautionary measures. We were just told that on this day you stop flying. In aviation, that's a big problem because we have planes that we've taken on lease and we have to keep paying for them, irrespective of what happens, whether you're flying them, you're not flying them. You have so many people that, we had at that time 12 or 13,000 people. What do you do with them? Uh, what does it mean when you say just shut down? What happens to all the infrastructure that you've got and how does one pay for it?
Do you remember that
And
particular day when that?
I remember that day. It was the government of India asked us in for a meeting, all of us, and said, look, we have no option but to just, we've been told that we need to shut shop. So it's a devastating blow. What really do you do? And, from our perspective, we just had to move quickly because this was the end of March and we had to pay salaries at the end of that month. And we were trying to figure out what happens when we don't fly that 10 days. How will we have the money to actually pay the salaries and what happens to all the people who are dependent on us? And so we had to start moving really, really quickly. We just decided that there was little point in just sitting around and just moping about what had befallen us and what the government might or might not do to help. And at that point, of course, the government had other priorities and said, look, we can't really do very much. So from our perspective, we said, look, we have the planes. We can't fly passengers anymore, but is there something else that we can fly? And we realized that cargo was one of those things that we could actually use the planes for because there were no trucks, there were no trains, there was no surface movement of cargo. And so we said, nobody's stopping us from flying the plane. It's just that we can't put passengers in the plane. So we started using the planes to fly cargo. We first put cargo on the seats of the aircraft and we said, let's fly it like this. And then we said, okay, why can't we just take out the seats? And then there was this whole process of, can it be certified when you take out the seats and what happens to the plane? And we worked around those issues. We took out seats from a large number of planes and we started flying stuff for COVID. Initially, the government of India needed medicines. They needed equipment from places like China. Even a PPE suit, we didn't know in this country what a PPE suit was. So the government said to us, can you please fly a plane to China, get us a PPE suit.
Shanghai.
From Shanghai.
Right.
And when it comes here, since we want to replicate it, can you please fly it to Coimbatore? Because we have no other way to send it to Coimbatore.
Wow.
And we had this one aircraft, I remember, that just flew that one PPE suit. There was nothing in that plane but that one PPE suit. And we flew it to Coimbatore so that it could be replicated. Same stuff, we were approached by shrimp farmers and they said, look, what the hell, we have this entire community of people who are dependent on these, our products getting to market. This whole community will disappear if there is no way to do it. And we said, look, what the hell, we've never transported shrimp eggs, yeah, but we found a way to do it. So we transported the eggs and, you should see the wonderful stories that they tell about us now. Same for just so many commodities that needed to go from one place to the other. We took some wide body aircraft. We realized that around the world, aircrafts had come to a grinding halt and they were doing nothing and we could get them for next to free. So we said, okay, let's get these big, huge planes. And now instead of just flying around the country, we can also fly to the Middle East on these planes. Remember that the Middle East is dependent on countries like India for food and vegetables and flowers and things like that. And So we just repurposed. Our thought was that, look, in this horrible adversity that we have, what are the opportunities we can find, and can we somehow stay alive? And the new business that we did actually helped us keep going and helped us pay salaries. We didn't sack a single person from SpiceJet. We said, look, there is no place. We said there is absolutely no place. If we sack them, they'll be out on the road because there is no other job for them to get anywhere in the country. And we said, fine, we'll manage with whatever we have, but we won't sack anybody. So the earnings that we were getting from the cargo business, we essentially paid to our employees. We said the guys who are at the lowest rung, they are at subsistence. We will keep paying them their entire salary. We will not do salary cuts. At the top level, we will do 100%. Like for me, I was on zero salary. My immediate reportees were on zero salary. And then we had a gradation of salary cuts. And we survived. We said, look, we'll manage with whatever we have and hope for the best.
And now you are back to almost pre-COVID levels?
So we are now getting back to pre-COVID levels. Of course, the market is doing well. The demand is strong. The yields are high. We actually, of course, learned a lot during COVID. We learned that you could actually automate many, many things that we should have done a long time back, but COVID allowed us to do it. And you could work as one team, all the airlines together, the government work as one India in a common objective, and that helps in very many ways. And I think all in all, fantastic learnings from COVID. And
I'm going to come back to you, Ajay Singh, on some of the lessons you learned, but I'd like to bring Puneet in at this time. 260 hotels, 100 homestays, an enterprise revenue over 10,000 crores, employing 28,000 people, 22,000 rooms, and over 5 million room nights. And overnight, that becomes zero. Am I right? What did you all do?
See, I think when I look back, it's very interesting. 22nd of March was Janta curfew. We all had to, take the thali out and do something. Then 24th was the lockdown. And we did a lot of things, to which I'll come one on one. But honestly, neither me nor the entire management team believed that this is going to last beyond 30th of April. Had we known this will go on for 2 years, we might have given up what all we did. Now I come to what we did.
Right.
So we started something which is actually built in the DNA of the House of Tatas, is the community service. So we started giving meals to frontline workers. Already from 20th of March, we started with the Nair Hospital in Mumbai, which spread to 7 hospitals in Mumbai, then 3 more in Delhi, then a few in Bangalore, few in Coimbatore, etc.
Did you all also become COVID hospitals in some senses, where they
Yes, that came later. So the first thing was giving meals, and also to the migrant workers. There was times when on a day we were supplying 60, 70,000 meals a day. And in the end, it added up to 6 million meals during COVID period that we did. Now, all this came because of a belief that when a virus hits both your mind and your business, and the human beings are living in fear, then they need empathy and care. And we did that with the core values of Taj. So not everybody in this audience would know. Taj, we defined 5 years ago, stands for trust, awareness, and joy. So having trust of all your stakeholders is important. Stakeholders also includes, beyond guests, all your suppliers, all your, from poultry to peas, from all your associates, all the people who are working with you. Awareness of what is happening around you, and joy in doing what you do, right? And this just comes in automatic, although I was then only 2.5 years with the company, but it just happened. I saw everybody into execution and action mode. And that worked very well. Besides that, we hosted 120,000 bed nights for frontline workers. And all this got done through Taj Public Service Welfare Trust, which was created post 26/11 attacks to help the victims of terrorism. And we kind of clarified that a virus is nothing else but also another kind of a terror attack on human beings. So I think all in all, what this did was that everybody else also followed. So the hospitality sector, which was hurt, which was absolutely paralyzed with the fear that was inculcated in people that going to a hotel, going to a restaurant, sitting in a plane creates COVID. And then what do you do? So I think thinking like that, listening to your customers, we started home delivery, like Ajay did the cargo, cumin got created. So we started bringing Taj food to people's homes. We created homestay in the form of Ama so that people can have relaxation and holiday in a secluded environment. So that's again become a business for us. And we see that when the business is back, all this is firing. And
currently, at what revenues are you all as compared to?
We are actually in a better position. I think we got a lot of empathy from all the customers, including your group, India Today. We see everybody's here. A few days ago, we had the other groups summits also. So all that is happening with us. So we are 1920 comparatively, we are almost 30% ahead.
Wow.
At an enterprise level. And in the last quarter, our profit after tax was higher than any full year profit of the best financial year.
Wow. Ajay Bijli, do you have a similar story to tell? Your PVR Inox, 1,674 cinema screens, 358 theaters across 114 cities in India and Sri Lanka, overall turnover 7,500 crore rupees, viewing of 100 million people in 2019, just before COVID. And then you said it became zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so what did you
1
do?
minute, 15 seconds, I can say.
No, don't worry. We'll get it extended. I think the clock went a little
Thank you, first
haywire.
of all, for having me, and these are incredible stories. So, of course, our business, 2019 globally was the biggest box office year in the world. $42 billion was the gross box office revenues at cinemas. And even India was massive. And we had about 100 million people coming to our cinemas. And suddenly this COVID broke and, 2020 March 15th, 16th, cinemas were shut down. So we were the first ones to be shut down and the last ones to have opened. So obviously it was if I say it was a body blow, it's an understatement because suddenly your revenues came to zero. And we didn't have any other avenues. Ours is very simple business. The shutters are up, business is up, shutters are down, business is zero. So even no home delivery we could do, no other avenues. So one of the lessons that I learned at that time was that it's all very good to say core competence, do very well, do one thing, do it exceedingly well. But if you put all your eggs in one basket, sometimes a very out of shape scrambled egg or omelette comes out. So that's what happened with us. But for me, more than the business, it was important to remain sane. I was very fortunate that, by default, due to a lockdown, my kids were with me. My wife, Selena, she's here. My mom lives in the same house, my brother. So suddenly, this perspective came to me that, okay, fine, this is not a disruption. This is an interruption in my business. And it's fine, count your blessings. There are other things to, you can't have a one-dimensional view of life, that if business goes down, you go down. And I just started to take care of myself and exercised, did everything. And in fact, I shaved every day as well. So I didn't want to look like completely Dukhi Atma on the Zoom calls as well. And because I wanted to do that for my family, I wanted to do that for 12,000 people working at PVR and come out with strategies to survive. I don't have time, but I'll just tell you a few things. We had to obviously, since we didn't have any other revenue avenues, so cost was the only thing we could do and shoring up liquidity. So I was fortunate that most of my people, without me even asking, took a 50% haircut in their remuneration. I was extremely fortunate that all developers, because our business is all about renting spaces, they all came forward and gave us rent reliefs, even without force majeure. I was extremely happy that we were able to raise funds because 18 months is a long period to have zero revenues. So we raised liquidity through a rights issue. We raised liquidity through a QIP. I was absolutely blown away that we were able to raise the kind of cash we did to survive 18 months. We were completely at the brink of a bankruptcy. And because of cost savings, because of being able to raise money, and because of remaining sane, and again, thanks to my parents, that how to maintain equanimity.
And now you've also acquired a company and as well.
Yeah. Well, as I said, never waste a good crisis. So we found an opportunity that only in COVID we could have done this merger. And we did a merger with Inox, with the number 2 player in the listed entity. And basically just to make the balance sheet stronger. And that's it really. And I think I've run out of time. That's a massive times I've written.
Well, I'm going to just take a little, just one more round we're going to have. And this is lessons, management lessons. So Ajay Singh, we can start with you. What are the 3 things that you would say that you learned, which others could learn in terms of managing resilience? 3 things that you would say in your mind, 1, 2, 3, if I take them off.
Well, I think...
Don't worry, I'll tell them too. You can say them. I think everyone's interested. Just 3 things. Yeah, quickly.
So I think one, as Ajay was just saying, try and find opportunity in crisis. That also keeps you sane, by the way.
Right.
Besides, so it's a way to remain optimistic in life. I think 2, this importance of automation. I think that was key. We learned that a lot of stuff that we were doing could actually have been automated when we were forced to automate because of COVID. So that's something that everybody should do, COVID or no COVID. I think those are 2 really big ideas. And 3, I think that never presume that the worst can't hit you, because we never ever imagined a situation in which there could be an outage like COVID. We just thought things were going to remain hunky-dory for periods of time, and there'll be small blips, but that there can be huge events of this sort, and that one needs to even plan for those, I think was a big learning for us.
Puneet, quickly, 2 or 3 things that you would...
One, I would say that I realize the importance of giving. So if you give one in good way, 10 times good comes back to you. I never would have believed. You only read that in books. The second is, if you look after your people, they look after your guests, and then the business is there to stay. And last, I would say, is shortcuts don't help even in a pandemic. Don't take shortcuts. They only solve short-term problems, but create long-term challenges.
Wow. Ajay?
Yeah, I mean, I think good times, bad times, if you take care of all your stakeholders, customers, your people, in our case, the film fraternity, I didn't stop them from going to OTT platforms. That's an elephant in the room. I thought I must address that as well. And everybody, and bankers, investors, and they help you, because if you've done a good job of running your company, taken care of them, and also you can't just maintain a facade of remaining positive with your team. You have to back it with statistics. So I'm in a business where 1,800 films come through the system in India, and 1.45 billion tickets get sold. It's an industry which has been around for 125 years. So you can't renounce an activity suddenly for 18 months if it's shut. So it was here to stay, and I proved it by data. And it's proven even now. Some of the biggest hits have come post-pandemic. Never have you seen a Telugu movie, Kannada movie, English movie, Hindi movie doing the business that is done. So I think if you just give lip service to your team, it doesn't work. You have to back it with data. You have to back it with the conviction that your business is here to stay. This is just an intermission, a very long intermission, but not the end of, it's not doomsday.
I think,
so the deeper you go, the higher you reach.
I think one thing that all of us realized in that period was that one needs to be scrupulously honest. This importance of honesty, just to tell people how bad things were. Just the bad news to everybody, to all your stakeholders, and say that you're doing something about it, and be upfront and honest about what you are able to do and what you're not able to do. I think that goes a long way. I think all of us realize that in this period.
Fabulous lessons. One last word from you, Puneet.
Just
since the
that
hotel is
as
yours.
bad as COVID was, it
Yes.
accelerated the speed of change and the openness of people to embrace change. That was good.
Let's give them
Right.
the new COVID heroes, I would say. Let's give them a very warm round of applause for what they've done. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Please raise a warm round of applause for our panelists as I call upon Rajiv Kohli, General Manager, the New India Assurance CO Limited. Company Limited, can I please get him on stage? Ladies and gentlemen, can we please put our hands together for a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you, gentlemen.